We have built the fortress. We have gathered the allies. But now, we must ask the most uncomfortable question of all. Who will carry the torch when you are gone? Most people in America are living for a single generation. They work, they spend, they die. And within 20 years, their names are forgotten and their wealth is evaporated. They are subjects of time. The architect of fate plays a different game. We are not just building a life, we are building a lineage. Why must you earn 10 times more than you need? Why must you buy the estate and the high-standard lifestyle? It's not for your comfort, it's for the sovereignty of your bloodline. We live in a world that wants your children to be average. The system wants them to be obedient workers, quiet consumers, and predictable cogs in the machine. This is the matrix, and the only way to break your family out of the matrix is to build a financial and spiritual shield so thick that the noise of the world cannot penetrate it. Let's be honest about the state of the world. The modern educational system, the media, and the average culture are designed to strip your children of their individuality and their sovereignty. They are being programmed to seek safety over greatness. If you are broke or even middle class, you have no choice but to hand your children over to the machine. You send them to the same schools, you let them consume the same toxic culture, and you wonder why they grow up to be anchors instead of engines. Wealth is the only way to buy back your children's minds. We earn the millions so that we can afford to provide an elite education. And I don't mean just an Ivy League degree. I mean the education of experience, of travel, of private mentors, and of being in the room with other sovereigns. We buy the high life to create an environment where excellence is the only language spoken. When a child grows up in a home where every object represents mastery and every conversation is about the future, they don't have to learn discipline, they breathe it. We aren't spoiling them, we are immortalizing the standard. We are protecting their spark from being extinguished by the bucket of water that is modern society. In the elite world, we have a saying, money is the fruit, but wisdom is the root. If you leave your children $10 million without the intellectual capital to manage it, you haven't given them a gift, you've given them a death sentence. They will become the prey of the scavengers. This is why we must get rich, to have the time and resources to build a family code. The non-materialist seeks wealth to buy the space for mentorship. When you are rich, you don't have to work 80 hours a week for someone else. You can spend those 80 hours teaching your sons and daughters the laws of reality, the art of the deal, and the metaphysics of the soul. Your greatest asset is not your bank account, it is the mindset you install in your heirs. We buy the big house and the luxury cars to act as training tools. We show them the V12 engine to explain the power of precision. We show them the architectural blueprint of the mansion to explain the power of vision. We use the material world as a laboratory to teach the spiritual laws of creation. We are not raising rich kids, we are raising guardians of the flame. We are building a dynastic mindset that understands that they have a duty to something much larger than their own pleasure. Let's look at history. When the storms of tyranny, economic collapse, or social chaos hit, who survives? It is always the people with liquid assets and global proximity. If you are poor, you are stuck. You are a victim of your geography. If your country fails, you fail. If your currency devalues, your life's work vanishes. Wealth is your global exit strategy. We earn the money to buy the passport of freedom. We want to be able to move our family, our assets, and our values to anywhere in the world at a moment's notice. We want the untouchable status that comes with having a diversified global empire. This is the non-materialist reason for the private jet and the offshore accounts. It's not about hiding money, it's about protecting sovereignty. It's about ensuring that no single government or entity can ever hold your family's future hostage. When you have the high standard of wealth, you can afford the best lawyers, the best security, and the best advisors. You are building a private state within the world. You are a sovereign individual. You are the king of your own territory. And a king must have the resources to defend the borders. Now, let's talk about the world beyond your family. Why must you have excessive wealth? Because real change is expensive. In America, we have a lot of activists who shout in the streets. They have a lot of noise, but very little leverage. They are begging the system to change. The vanguard doesn't beg. The vanguard funds the change. If you want to save a forest, you don't just protest, you buy the forest. If you want to change the education system, you don't just complain, you build the school. If you want to protect a certain value or a piece of truth, you fund the research. Wealth is the volume control of your voice. Without money, your ideas are just whispers. With money, your ideas are inescapable truths. We seek wealth to become architects of society. We want to be the ones who decide which direction humanity moves. We want to be the invisible hand that supports the arts, the sciences, and the spiritual evolution of the species. This is the ultimate non-materialist flex, using the material world to force the spiritual world to expand. When you are rich, you can afford to be a patron of greatness. You can find the young geniuses, the struggling artists, and the visionary entrepreneurs and give them the oxygen they need to breathe. You become a co-creator of the future.
In the Middle Ages, the architects who started building the great cathedrals knew one thing: they would never see the finished product. It took 100, 200 years to finish a cathedral. They were building for a future they would not inhabit. This is the cathedral mindset. The average person thinks in 24-hour cycles. The hustler thinks in 30-day cycles. The CEO thinks in 4-year cycles. The architect of fate thinks in 100-year cycles. We earn the money and buy the legacy assets, the land, the gold, the timeless businesses, not for our own use, but to provide a foundation for the year 2026. When you buy a piece of high-quality art or a classic car, you are acting as a temporary custodian for a timeless object. You are saying, I value beauty enough to protect it for the next generation. This is the spirituality of stewardship. We don't own the money, we manage it for the divine. We are the chief financial officers of our family's destiny. When you live with this perspective, your stress disappears. You stop worrying about the stock market's daily fluctuations. You stop caring about the latest trends. You are building something made of granite, not cardboard. You are becoming an ancestor. There is a difference between being dead and being an ancestor. A dead man is gone. An ancestor is a living force that continues to guide, protect, and provide for their lineage long after their heart has stopped beating.
Finally, let us speak of the blood memory. Science is starting to realize that trauma and wisdom can be passed down through DNA. When you do the hard work now, when you master your mind, build your wealth, and refine your character. You are recoding your genetic lineage. You are deleting the software of poverty and victimhood and installing the software of sovereignty. When your great-grandchild is born 80 years from now, they will have a natural confidence they can't explain. They will have a natural discipline they didn't have to work for. Why? Because you did the work today. Your wealth is the energy reservoir that supports that new genetic code. It gives them the safety to be daring. It gives them the margin to be magical. This is why we must win. This is why we must get rich. It is a holy war against mediocrity. It is a sacred mission to protect the spark of human excellence in an increasingly dark world. So do not apologize for your ambition. Do not let the small-minded people shame you for your desire for the high life. They see the Ferrari. You see the independence. They see the mansion. You see the fortress. They see the money. You see the legacy. Go out there and dominate. Not for yourself, but for the version of you that will be born in 100 years. Give them a name they can be proud of. Give them a foundation they can build upon. Give them a code they can live by. Stay rich, stay sovereign, stay eternal. I'll see you in the future of your own making. Let us address the most common fear of the successful. Will my wealth ruin my children? Will the luxury make them soft? The average mind thinks that poverty builds character and wealth destroys it. But the architect knows that poverty often just builds survival skills, while wealth builds existential character. We build the high life and provide the golden floor for our lineage, not to make their lives easy, but to make their lives transparent. When a child grows up in poverty, they have a built-in excuse for every failure. I didn't succeed because I didn't have the money. I didn't lead because I didn't have the connections. I didn't create because I was too busy surviving. Poverty is a veil that hides the truth of who a person really is. But when you provide your children with the best of everything, the best mentors, the safest environment, the finest machines, you are doing something terrifyingly beautiful. You are removing their excuses. If you have the $200,000 car, the private library, and the global network, and you still fail to contribute to the world, there is nowhere left to hide. You cannot blame the system. You cannot blame the lack of resources. You are forced to look in the mirror and face the quality of your own soul. Wealth is the ultimate truth serum for the next generation. We get rich to give our children the luxury of purpose. The average person spends their life working for a paycheck. Our children will spend their lives working for a mission. They don't have to work to be someone. They have the resources to find out who they are. This is the aesthetic of competence. When your child sees you demand a V12 engine, not for the speed, but for the engineering perfection, they are learning that the world is a place where details matter. They are learning that average is not an option in this house. We buy the $50,000 watch for them, not so they can tell the time, but so they can feel the weight of responsibility on their wrist. It is a constant physical reminder that they belong to a lineage of titans. It says, "A man who wears this cannot be lazy. A woman who wears this cannot be a victim. You are a guardian of a standard that took blood, sweat, and decades to build." By surrounding them with luxury, you are raising their psychological baseline. Most people are impressed by a nice hotel or a fancy dinner. Our children will not be impressed by stuff. Because they grew up with it, they will be immune to the distractions of the material world.
They won't be chasing the flex. They will be chasing the impact. When the material world is solved, the only thing left to compete for is spiritual mastery and intellectual dominance. That is the game we want them to play. We want them to be the ones who solve the problems that money can't fix. So do not fear the luxury. Use it as a filtering system. Use it to burn away the small desires so that only the great mission remains. You are building a bloodline of sovereigns. And a sovereign is not someone who has a lot of things. A sovereign is someone who commands the things they have to serve a vision that lasts forever. Give them the world so they can finally learn how to rule themselves.